Welcome to the Golden Crane Award-winning Color Success Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie J. Wong. Well, today I have Lillian Victoria, who is an entertainment executive turned high-performance coach. She works with high achievers that have experienced loss to help them see a clear path to their goals and turn them into reality. Hi, Lillian. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to learn more about your journey. You work in the entertainment industry, and it's been quite a journey given what I know about you. And so could you tell us a little bit about your path and how you got there?
So, when I got into the film and entertainment business, it was really a very simple idea. I grew up, I was raised by a single mom with two kids. We had our struggles. I never had a dad. And just to keep in mind, I'm a little older. So when I decided to get into entertainment, I really want to use film as a portal to find my dad. That it started with one simple dream, desire, and hope. Right? Why did I say a little bit older? Because back then, the internet technology is not like what it is today.
Yes.
It was very different. There was no YouTube. Friendster was so new. If some of the people might not even know what Finster is, right? So I started with that. And sometimes ignorance is bliss because I don't know better. I didn't know how tough the industry was going to be. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I just know that as a young girl, I had a whole lot of dreams. And I thought, hey, I could work really hard, get my name on the title, and my dad will somehow find me. So that's how I started my journey. I went to school at UC San Diego. Graduated with a film degree. I went in as an economics degree, left with a film degree.
How did that happen?
Well, to be very transparent, I think a lot of listeners could relate. Asians, right? My mom wanted me to be an accountant. Like that was like her thing. So naturally that was a major. I got it in. But then when I was in college, I realized that what do I want to do? And I was always a creative person. So I double majored. Behind my mom's back, of course. And then the thing is, if I double majored to finish two majors, I had to stay in school another year and I didn't want her to find out. So instead of, taking two majors, I just said, I'm going to go for it. So basically I did not give myself a plan B. I said, this is going to work and I'm going to go for it. Cause I already know how my mother was going to be so against it. Which, that did happen. Right.
So when did you find out, like when you got your degree, and how did that conversation go down?
Oh my gosh.
Spill the tea.
Let's put it this way, right? Even first of all, she doesn't understand because she was like, well, how do you make money? How do you make money? And you know what the truth is? I didn't even know at the time because I was so young. I was in my early 20s. I just wanted to get into the business first. I wanted to get experience. I wanted to make things, right? Because I want to get things going. School didn't teach me all that, the business part. But when I did have a certain level of success, that is when the conversation becomes interesting. And I got to the point where I was able to buy my own house. You think that's what the parents want, right? Like I made a living, I'm buying my house, I'm making some investments. And this is the very interesting part. She would be like, I still don't know what you do. Are you an actress? Are you a writer? Are you a producer? Are you a director? And she doesn't know the difference, despite how many times I've explained it to her, even how the business work at that point. She'll go and tell, I am for reals when she says this. She'll go tell her friends that I work in the film business as an accountant.
So, well, I guess you're still an accountant in her eyes. So
in her eyes,
no problem.
I will laugh because math is not my forte.
Oh, me neither.
Math is not my thing. But that was just I guess the Asian culture, one of you could say the struggles, the conflict, what have you, that was not in harmony, right? Like my mom had her sets of beliefs. I had my sets of beliefs, and I refused to give up my life with what she wanted me to have. Right.
So walk me through this journey though, trying to find your dad, because that is a huge motivator that people don't necessarily go into the industry trying to accomplish.
Yeah. For the longest time, I was living like a double life. So I had led my career at the time to China, which was, everything was perfect because China at that time was opening up. This is like early 2010, 2009, this was when the economy was booming. I thought, we heard through grapevine that my dad probably resided in Shanghai. So it was really based on a thought. There is nothing to validate. So I, with the right timing, I quickly rose into that area of US and China, making some pretty cool projects, movies. And the whole time, while I'm working as an executive, doing taking the meetings, whatever, do what I have to do. I'm like networking with the locals, the securities to go through their database to find my dad. And I really only have his name, his Chinese name. I have his English name, but it's not relevant in China. His Chinese name, and then his birthday. That's it. Wow. And I did not find it.
So what is kind of the story? Have you found him? What happened?
Ancestry.com.
That's why I waited all that time for the technology to be developed. Thank you.
Ancestry.com.
Executive, you need to, reach out to them to sponsor, like this is insane. Like, I mean, you went grassroots and then found him. So then what happened?
So I haven't physically met him yet. When I found him, my personal marriage was in like a break. It was at a tough spot at the time, which led to divorce. But now we're in a very amicable co-parenting relationship, and I'm in a new relationship. So at the time, there was too much going on, but I did find him. I did reach out to him. I did phone calls, it didn't work. There were addresses. I wrote mails, got returned. I even have, as you grow in age, guess what? Your friends grow too. I have a friend who became a PI. He also pulled out information. It was the same information as Ancestry.com. So the next step is to drive there because apparently he's somewhere in Vegas. Little did you know, I went across the world to find him, but he was here.
Wow.
So the next step is to really just plan a trip to drive there. That's my way of doing it, because I had to take some time to heal myself before I could face another kind of a truth, right? Because for me, one of the reasons why it drove me to find him was because it's very difficult for me to believe that a father, my biological father, would abandon his own kids. So that's one of the whys that I want to know. Like, I feel like there has to be something more than that, because I used to have a very great relationship. And it's just healing. It's really just for me to know so I can move on. Right. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's really about trying to find some resolutions to some questions, and just that quest continues to be part of your healing journey.
Yeah.
So what, aside, that's a lot to face when you're young, but what other challenges have you coped with being of Asian female in an industry that now is just starting to touch the tip of the iceberg with Asian American representation?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways, right? Like, I was an executive, and here's the thing. I think before I was really in my own little bubble. And as an Asian female, and I think all female, whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, everyone has their own #MeToo movements. I certainly had my share. What I come to realize is I used to always focus on the work. I didn't really think the fact that if I'm Asian or not, that make a difference. And I didn't realize that until the whole Me Too movement came out. And then some of my fellow colleagues that are like colleagues of color, male, they will tell me, after when we leave the room, right, what they will say behind our back. So that was very enlightening.
What are some of those things for people that don't know the industry very well?
No, so they're just very sexist. That's it. It's like the comments and sexist and opportunity. Because for me, in a producer role, for me in the past, like one of the challenges I actually had was I didn't focus on the race, but more of the gender. Because in all the meetings most of the meetings that I was a part, there was not that many females. There were more males. Right. I will say, one thing that really blew my mind was when the Me Too movement came out. And I would never forget that moment. I was in the office. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Harvey Weinstein story. And the thing is, like, everyone in the industry already knew that's who he is. So I just remember, I have a point to this. I just remember when I was listening all that, and we're like, why is that a big news? And then the sad part is, like, we just accepted it because it was part of the business. I met Harvey himself. I met the person that runs his Asia business, and there's a whole other story there. Right. But then that's when I realized that you just kind of subconsciously accept the fact for what it is and you don't question it. And that went with the culture, right? You don't talk about it. So let's just be peace, put our head down. So when it became such a big news and it's such a movement, for me, it was like, whoa, like, actually that is wrong. Like, why did I not acknowledge that? Right. And then the awareness started to come up that, okay, there is that gender and then there is a race. Right. But one thing I do feel like that helped me a lot is to not think about it too much and focus on my work. Yeah.
So, you've been on this healing journey. What does that look like in terms of, paradigm shifts is one of your huge things. And also your experience with medications.
Oh my gosh. Let's put it this way, right? For a very long time, so I mentioned I was raised by a single mom with 2 kids, and she had her struggle. She was emotionally and physically unavailable, added, being an immigrant, being in America. So there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of trauma that came from it. I had to experience a few like childhood sexual trauma, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So I'm saying this because what I realize now is all of that has formed a belief, a paradigm, that inner child. So I was that person that was going to therapy for a very long time, and it was great for the time being. But at one time I had to grow up because I was working on the past. I was working on the inner child. It was great awareness, but it was giving me more of the same results. Right. So when my personal life, when I was 35, I'm 38 now, so it hasn't been that long. When I lost everything, when I went through my depression, every time I go, I'm still talking about the past. I'm still talking about the problem. And then I was being put on meds, Xanax, Lexapro, all that. Right. And then I was like, this can't be it. There has to be more. So the change and the healing came when I started to focus on my inner child. But when I started to focus on the grown-up, that was a shift, right? I acknowledge it. I acknowledge the pain. I hear it, but it's time for me to heal and move on. So when it comes out, I know exactly what the trigger is, and take that minute to meditate, to soak it in, and then shift my mind to the grown-up, where I'm heading, my goals, my vision.
Post-traumatic growth, really.
Which is dramatic growth. Who is Lillian? What's my legacy? What's my vision and purpose? If today is my last day, what do I want to be remembered as? And then start to take very big leaps and bounds. So do the illogical, get uncomfortable. But then, when you for me, there was a moment in my life where I had to make a decision. We make decisions every day, but it was a decision of if I'm going to die or if I'm going to live. Right. Dying will
truly live, right? It's not just
live.
Like going through the motions of life. Post-traumatic growth is really about, can you start to thrive?
Yeah. Thrive. Yes. Yes. You just hit it on spot. And, mother to mother, my son was 4 years old at the time. So dying is not an option. The fear was there because of everything that I went through when I was a kid. I do not want my son to go through it.
Absolutely.
Right. It's almost like history repeating himself. It's like, oh my gosh, the dad is gone. Well, he's not gone. We're just separated. We're actually a very great relationship right now. Right. Lost my place. I was couch surfing, and it's like, WTF just happened.
Yeah.
Right. But then if I live, like you said, thrive, and I was like, but I want to live higher. I want to rise higher. And that's what I did. Because I didn't, even if I was living, I didn't want to stay low. I decided that I am not my mom. The history does not have to repeat itself.
Right.
And that's when I started to do the work. Because one thing I realized too, as a executive, one thing I would ask myself, it's really sad at the time. I don't know who I was besides the job that I was working at, besides the project. I didn't know who my true identity is. And that's when I collapsed too. And that's when I realized I didn't even have a foundation of who I am. When people ask me, so what do you want to do? I'm like, I have no idea at the time. So it was a blessing in disguise, because when you lose everything, yes, it is painful, but it gives you the opportunity to rebuild, reset that foundation, because it was too rocky, too shaky. Everything had to collapse. It was not healthy. It was not in harmony. And without going through that, I will not be where I'm at today.
You are so strong. Who is Lillian Victoria? Like, now that you have gone through all this hardship, all this healing, what is your foundation?
My 3 F's. So family, faith, and fulfilling my legacy. So I live by the 3 F's, right? One of the things that I was so sad in the past, but not anymore, was when I went through my marriage, when we were going through divorce. Growing up, I already didn't have a family. So I always wanted to have a family, right? Now I have a family. I did not get remarried yet, but I am in a beautiful relationship with another single dad that I've known for 20 years. Just so having became a single dad, and our son's like 6 months apart. So that's beautiful. Living faith, knowing that we have everything we need to create the life that we want. And then the legacy. I went from always looking for a job after a job after a job. It was about just having a job and the paycheck, but there is no vision and purpose. My legacy right now that I'm doing in every single day is to create positive, transformative impact to 1 billion people around the world. The number has to be big. The goal has to be big. So it excites me and scares me, right? And I'm inspired every single day. So I do that by coaching, whether it's group, individual, mastermind, company. And then I also still do that with filmmaking. So I'm still working on a few projects. The difference with this is very powerful when you have your own vision and purpose. The difference now that I have my vision and purpose, I know exactly what I'm creating. And then I really exercise the power of no. It's okay to walk away from projects that's going to take away my time and not get me focused on the legacy I'm building.
Yeah.
So that's who I am.
And I really encourage all of my clients to have that introspection and really lay out their values and their mission and their goals, because I think that really is your North Star to guide you in terms of where you go in your life. And I think one of the things that's really great about what you've done so far and continue to do is that you've worked across different parts of the world. So what have you learned about yourself and others by working in Asia, working in the US?
Yeah. First thing, be grateful for what you have. I would say, like, really be grateful for, the food that you have, the shelter, the hot coffee, So I live in LA, Los Angeles, and I remember I was so spoiled by the beautiful LA weather. Right. So when I actually moved to China full time, the weather was like, wow, I took a beat on that. And I didn't realize how much I didn't appreciate what I had, and then also you go to Asia, I grew up in Taiwan in a little bit too. So I travel a lot between China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And you see it, and I'm like, I'm just so grateful. I used to always complain about my upbringing is so blah, 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 blah. But then after I go and I see, and I'm like, I am just so grateful. My mother took us to America. Yes, it was a struggle, but the education, the opportunities, the lifestyle, and be able to travel and to help people over there as well, just to give any kind of impact. So that's the first thing I would say, never take advantage of what you have. always be grateful. And even the people there, right? I've met people in every tier of the city. So you have the first, second, third tier. So basically it's all the income tier, right? Even for the poor, they're happy with what they have. So that's one thing that, I used to feel like gratitude has been so commoditized. It's everywhere. It's even at the gift shops, it's at the coffee shop, but really use it, for daily life and as an antidote. That was my biggest thing that I've learned. Right.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
what are you hoping to accomplish moving forward? Because I think you mentioned you have a mission, you have a value.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your business and a little bit more in depth.
Yeah. So right now, I did transition into a coach, a peak performance coach. So I think very similar to you, I love working with individuals. I love seeing their life change. They get the results that they want. Now I've worked with people who cannot conceive, but once they make a decision and know the life that they want, conceived and just had a baby, right? I work with individuals had tripled their income goal, right? I have another individual, this is like a beautiful one, and she did $1 million in 1 month because she set herself a goal, right? So I love these because when people are successful, when they become successful, I'm in the business of success, right? It's like I feel good as well. Does that make sense? So, and I'm looking to create this kind of impact to 1 billion people around the world. Why do I say 1 billion? Because one thing I've learned, when your goal, got to stretch your goal big. When I say I just want to create positive impact, what does that mean? Am I just helping one person? If I say 1,000, I feel like that's too achievable, right? So serve more, serve big, and dream big. And that's what's going to yank you out from your comfort zone. And that's what's going to get you inspired. Because here's the deal. Here's what I've learned. And if anything, we probably all learned that from COVID. The 9 to 5 is not sustainable. And I knew that before COVID hit, right? This is a time to create your opportunity. And the best way to drive that is to do something that you love to do. So for me, when I ask myself, what would I love to do every single day, even if I don't get paid, but for the rest of my life, is to help people that's been in my situation, teach them all these mental tools, so they could live a life of prosperity and abundance. And even as I'm thinking about this, I remember a few years ago, when I hear this, I feel like it's cliche, prosperity and abundance. Like I really would feel that way, right? I guess it's living in LA, you see it everywhere. But there's a reason why. There's a reason why it's marketed. There's a reason why that's a lifestyle. It's being able to apply it and internalize it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that having that big goal, there's that piece, that framework, and then there's also action. You seem like a woman who, as Dr. Tiffany Moon would say, get stuff done, right? It's like it's about action too, and following through with these goals, because a lot of people have big dreams, but it's that implementation that sets a lot of people apart. And so tell me a little bit about how you walk through or work with someone with fertility issues, because that's a huge one for clients in general. Mm-hmm. I don't think evolution has really caught up to the working woman, the mompreneur kind of life, because we tend to now, at least in our generation, many have children at a later age than what used to be in the past. And so what are some challenges that kind of come along with that fertility issue, and how would you maybe give us some insight in terms of how you would coach someone?
Yeah. First of all, I coach them with what they want. So get very clear, because our mind operates in mental images. Van Gogh, he sees a picture in his mind and he paints it on a canvas. Right now, what we're doing is you see the life that you want to live in your mind. So we know what we're building on. Like you said, it becomes a North Star, and then we start to create it. So this one client, just specifically her story, she had a kid, right? She wanted to grow her family, but she was going through IVF and she was stressed out and it was just not working. So After working with her, it was identified that she actually does want a family. This is what she wants. Because before she started with me, our program, she just kind of gave up, right? So she made that decision, right? And the one thing that we teach too is stay calm and confident. We do live in a life, depends on most places now, very fast paced, high stress, especially the corporate environment. It's like go, 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 go. So it's not about working harder, right? We heard about this, work smarter. There is a way to work and live your life with ease, right? So more of the story is, if it's not working, change your plan. Be very clear with where you're heading towards. Be very clear with your financial goal, with all the goals you're setting. Because when you understand that, the achieving process becomes very simple. You just ask yourself, is this in harmony with my goal? If it's not, you trim the fat. If it is in harmony, then you go and do it. You action take. So now what happens is you're spending a lot less time, but doing a lot more and getting a lot more done. Because, most people, they're just being busy. They're just used to being busy, but is everything getting done? Right now, for this girl, she was already a high performer, but she was working so hard and she was only getting incremental gains. Right. So the change here was to get her big, we call that the C-type goal, but then the big goal set. And now we start to look at the activities, not time management, but activity management, because we all have 24 hours in a day. So we can't manage the time, but the activities, get it streamlined so things are flowing. And then also what we do, most important thing is you start to reprogram your subconscious mind, the belief system that a baby is coming. This is while you're activating the power of visualization. You believe it, you see it, you're planning for it, working with what we call the law of nature, the universal laws. That's been highlighted everywhere in this book called Think and Grow Rich. And just now your whole body is at ease. Now things are flowing, the energy is flowing, right? And then that's when she conceived. Because the mind is no longer thinking, oh my gosh, why am I not getting pregnant? The thinking substance is very important. But now she's in the flow and she's welcoming. So when she did try, I think it was the first try, she got pregnant right away.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think that anxiety is counterproductive to actually getting pregnant. And at the same time, it's really hard to manage, right? It's there. And so I think there's a certain aspect of really addressing what the fears are and really accommodating in your life to see your dream fulfilled. So, I mean, that's a great amount of variety that you work with in terms of clients and figuring out how to help them visualize, manifest, and, have them come to fruition. So, you've been through a lot in your life. What is one question that you wish someone would ask you, and what would be your response?
That's a very powerful question. What I would love, and I really feel like this is for everyone, is instead of, asking me a question, but to say, hey, everything's going to be okay. And everything's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. And then my answer will be, thank you. Because I remember there was a time in my life, that's what I was looking for. I was calling my friends, I was talking to people, but really what I needed to say, what I needed to hear is, you're going to be okay. Instead I got a lot of, I'm so sorry, that's just bad luck. Or, I'm so sorry for the situation. A lot of I'm sorry to hear, right? And, while I know they're coming from good heart and good intentions, by the way, it's just that I was at a very low place. All I needed was to get spiritually lifted up by everything's going to be okay.
And I'll say everything will be okay. And because you have the tools and continue to implement those tools and learn new ones. Because I think one of the platitudes that people say, of I'm sorry or everything's going to be okay, is that it kind of brushes over that surface level piece. And really, you've shown incredible resilience. Like, I know that you can deal with anything because you have dealt with a lot of stuff. And
thank you.
Just to remind yourself that you are that amazing, strong woman, even in times that seem kind of hopeless.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can give some practical tips now for in all your years of experience in the industry and with a whole bunch of different clients on how Asian Americans can really continue to push towards representation and equality.
Yeah. You know what I would do? Focus on, we have this thing called the self-image, right? How you see yourself. And I really do feel like at least for the community that I am in, and a lot of the Asian Americans raised by immigrant family, is to change that self-image to our voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know for me, right? I did go to school a little bit in Taiwan, so I did have that Asia education. So when I came back to the States, you know, I was so scared to speak up because my image was, you stay quiet. I don't know if I'm going to say something wrong. Just don't get in trouble. So right now is truly the time. So, you know, I always say, what is the vision? What is the goal? Where are we heading towards as a community? What do we want to be creating for us as a community? What kind of rights, right? And I love to shower it with more love, because the more hate we think, the more hate's going to come. The more love we think, the more healing's going to come. And then from your vision of what we see, right, show up as that person. So for me, you know, I see equality. Like I have been very fortunate. I have never really ran into a lot of any of these racist acts until only when I was in high school I had, but after that, not really. So I know I'm very grateful, right? But the way I look at it is we're all the same. So I keep my mind on just treating people like how I would like to be treated. Right?
Universal kindness.
Focusing. Universal kindness, universal love, for sure. And then keep acting as if, you know, I don't see myself as a quiet person anymore. Actually, for my affirmation, how I see myself is my voice matters. Doesn't care. It doesn't matter if I'm Asian or a woman. It matters. And I'm going to talk about it. And this goes for everyone.
Yes. Yes.
So I feel like as a nation, well, not as a community, for the people that have this belief of I should just stay quiet, maybe and you don't agree with that, this is a time to step up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can people connect with you and learn more about your business and work with you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Lillian Victoria Official. I have a Facebook community. That's facebook.com/group/Awesomeness Lifestyle Official. And that's a community where a lot of people, my clients, mastermind, and just people that love weekly teaching are in there. It's very active and it's very inspirational. Or you could check out my website, awesomeness-lifestyle.com.
Lillian, thank you so much for being on the show. And you are just such a joy and just a role model to everyone out there. I won't just say Asian American women, but all the things that you've done and will continue to do just will inspire people for years to come.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Color Success Podcast. Listen, like, subscribe on all major streaming platforms, YouTube, IG, and if you want exclusive content, you can join our Patreon. All links can be found at colorofsuccesspodcast.com.